My earliest recollection of Mr. Reeves, I was probably, I don't know, 6 or 7 years old, 8 years old. You'd see him around town. It was always nice, tell you hello and what have you. And he rode a horse called Palomino, called Sunflower. And as little kids, you know, we were crazy about horses. So one day he had that horse tied on a vacant lot, a pin in the ground with a long rope. And we asked him, he said, "Reeves, can you ride that horse?" And he said, "Son," he said, "if y'all can catch him, y'all can ride him." All right, tied the rope. We tried to catch that old horse. Every time he'd get close to him, he'd turn and he'd cock his leg. We probably wouldn't have kicked it, but he gave us a good. Then again, we didn't know, you know. So, me and another guy tried that. Couldn't get it on the horse. He kept on turning. So he's got smart. So we rounded up 2 other kids. And that darn horse would just spin around and cock that leg. And we fooled with him about an hour or 2. And we said, "Can't get ready to do it." He just kind of looked at us and smiled, you know. He knew all along. The story I remember best about Mr. Reeves came from Mr. Milton Capel, Mr. Sproul. He was, he'd come to Daddy's camp in Bayou, and when I was like 6, 7 years old, I guess, and when it got in like in the teens, it was too cold for he and I to go out and take a stand, deer stand. So he babysit me and at that camp, and I can remember one day in front of a fireplace, he was telling about one time he and Mr. Reeves were cowboying out west, and they were going from one job to another, and they were riding across kind of a semi-desert. And he said, way in the distance, they could see something, the big white thing. And he said, "What do you think that is?" They didn't know. So they said, "Well, we're headed that way anyway." So they ride up on this huge tent, and they got a family of Mexicans. There's like 4 or 5 families there. And he said they had old ones, young ones, kids, dogs, and what have you. And kind of the head guy told them to get out and sat by the campfire and drank a cup of coffee or something. He said, "Would y'all like to stay for supper?" And they said, "Yeah, that'd be fine." So he called some guy over, and he said something to him in Spanish, and Mr. Sproul said he couldn't speak Spanish that well, so he didn't know what he said. So after a while, they were sitting there talking, and he sees this guy go out with a rifle, 22 rifle, and he heard a shot. He had shot a dog. He said he didn't say nothing. He figured there's something wrong with the dog. So they start preparing for the stew. After a while, he said, "Well, it's time to eat." So they started eating, and he said, "We didn't take much because it was a big family. You know, they had, like I said, 3 or 4 families there." He said everybody had served themselves, and the guy asked me, he said, "Look," he says, "have some more." He said, "We got plenty." So he said, "We helped ourselves to a second serving." Then Mr. Sproul, or Mr. Reeves asked him, said, "What kind of meat is it?" He said, "You like it?" He said, "Yeah." He said, "It's good." He said, "Well, what kind of meat is that?" He said, "Dog." Sproul said, they stopped kind of midway like this, they looked at each other, and they kind of shrugged their shoulders and kept on.
Well, I can say a few words here. Stebo Pearce.
I think I'm probably about the oldest head here today. I'm one of the last ones standing around Evergreen. And I'll be 85 in a few days. And growing up, one of my favorite stories was the 4 Cowboys. Earl Gullett, J.D. Reeves, Charlie Willis, and Sproul Capel. Well, I knew Mr. Earl the best, and I knew Charlie Willis next to the best, and Mr. Reeves, not too good, and Spraw Capel, not at all. Even though I knew all of the Evergreen Capels, that's where all of them came from. But I never knew Milton. But anyhow, one of Mr. Reeves' good friends was Mr. Gill, where Johnny Lemoyne lives now. Told Gill. Well, the Munger family lived with the Gills because that was his Munger's father. So I spent an awful lot of time on Gill Hill, and Mr. Reeves would come by to visit Mr. Tobe. And as somebody said, he was a man of few words. We all knew him more by reputation than by knowledge of his exploits in his life. And it's told that either he or Charlie Willis, either one could rope a goat with a rattan vine. And I'm pretty sure that's so. But there was a man that lived on the back of our place named Bill Daggins. Charlie Willis was a good friend of Bill Daggins, and he would ride his little grumpy-looking horse about this big through the woods. He lived on Highway 71, and ride it through the woods to the burn where Bill Daggins lived. And I'd meet with him there, and man, did I hear some stories. Bill Daggins knew my great-grandfather very well, and he was a character in his own right. He drank a lot of whiskey, I'm told, and he loved to play cards, and he had a horse named Cajun. Well, they played down in the burn with the Haleys and all the bunch that lived down in there, and at midnight he'd get on his horse and take a nap. Well, the horse would bring him back to Evergreen, where we live today, and he had a little black boy that had to wait for him on the back steps. When he got there with Cajun, he had to get up and put the horse up. But anyhow, that's an aside, but anyhow, what I'm saying was, I used to also see Mr. Reeves down at George Terry's. He used to visit with him, which was just down the road from Johnny Lemoyne's house. So anyhow, I just wish I had known him better than I do, because when I came back home after an exodus of 5 or 6 years, my papa worked me so hard I didn't do much visiting. I worked in the field all day and the mill all night, most days. But anyhow, I just wish I'd have known him better. My contact with Cottonport in those later days was probably the Dixie Inn, where I spent more time than anywhere else. Anyhow, when I get this call a year or so ago from this gentleman in Colorado, wanting to know if I knew his grandfather, I said, well, yeah, I knew him. Not too well, but I knew him more by reputation. And anyhow, I regret now that we hadn't seen him before now. We just wish, all of us wish he'd have been around 25 years ago.
Yeah.
I know there are tales that are way better than mine because I didn't know him near as well as some of y'all did. But it's a pleasure to be here, Kellus, and I'm glad to be a part of it, a small part, and hope you come back to Evergreen.
Thank you, Stebo. I feel there's friends here that I'll have for life, which may not be that long.
All day I faced a barren waste without the taste of water.